Okay, so the way to do that, first, to ensure your safety, you have to obviously connect the bridle to the screamer that connects the parachute, is basically the parachute connection, to the harness and the structure of the harness to keep you safe if you ever have to deploy. So take the screamer, as I said, make sure it's laying nice and flat within the harness, there's no twists, and attach the quick link or whatever type of connection that you choose to use to the bridle. Sometimes a little bit of Loctite will give you peace of mind, but if you use a standard crescent wrench to tighten that, you shouldn't have any problems. So I get this nice and snug, make sure that it's not going to come out and that there's no way that I can undo it. Okay, so that's good. Now back to the harness. As the bridle lays flat and the screamer lays in the cutout, the next thing to do is to butterfly the bridle within that cutout. And logically, if you think about it, the way this works is if you have to deploy your parachute, you want your deployment bag to come out of your parachute without any loops or problems. And so if the bridle is butterflied on top of itself, as the deployment comes out, it'll accordion and unfold without any problems. And the best way to do it, I've learned from use of climbing ropes, is to butterfly slightly larger loops to start and stack slightly smaller loops on top of it. That way, if you have a larger loop laying on top of a smaller loop, you have there presents the opportunity for a loop to grab a loop and cause a problem. Now, all of this is sort of moot. It's going to come out, but if you're going to be installing the parachute, I like to do it as carefully as possible, and that's the way I like to do it. So you start the installation by butterflying the bridle on top of the screamer, and it also helps to make sure that in the first few loops that quick link, I've found if it's on top of the screamer and sort of propped by a couple of the loops, it's not going to affect at all its ability to come out clean. But what you want to do is you want to keep this quick link from being able to press on your body when you're laying in a tight-fitting harness, because if you feel that quick link, it becomes uncomfortable. So if you lay the quick link on top of the screamer, I found that you don't feel the quick link, and it never presents an issue. So start, as I said, by butterflying full-length loops, the full length of that cutout, on top of the screamer. And on top of itself. You can go ahead and stop it. So this particular parachute is a Lara Gold, and it's got this very flat Kevlar bridle. But the way your parachute lays and the way that it feels in the harness it does have some to do with the way that bridle lays in there. So if you do have a standard bridle, the more careful you are with the butterflies, the more careful you are making sure that it's stacked correctly, not only will improve your margin of safety, but it'll also help with the way the harness looks when the parachute is installed and the way it feels when it's on. Over time, the parachute tends to start to conform to your body, and the bridle tends to do the same. So you end up gaining comfort, and it looks better over time as the parachute kind of gets matted down around your own shape. But starting in a good place is a better way to have that happen sooner. So once you get the bridle stacked and you know that it's straight, the parachute has to lay on top of it. And what you want is you want to make sure that the handle is facing the right way. This is not the right way. So in this parachute, the parachute needs to be placed within that particular area with the handle facing this way in relation to how the harness is sitting right now. And you can see that I've taken the neoprene flaps that are sewn to the harness and surrounded the parachute in order to capture it properly. Okay? It's laying on top of the bridle, everything is straight, and the harness is, or the deployment bag is in a appropriate position. Okay, so the way that this is going to secure inside the harness is by threading these bungees first through the side grommet, then through the front grommet, and eventually through the grommet that exits the harness shell. So what I do is I take my string, even both ends, put both ends through the side flap first, okay, like so, and then through the front flap, and then through the harness exit, the grommet on the outside of the harness. I thread both of them through, and it doesn't have to all be captured correctly yet. Same on the other side. Okay, and before I even connect the zippers, I take both of these strings and I just go ahead and tie them together loosely. That way neither one of them is going to get lost. They're not going to get sucked back into the harness, and I always have control over those bungees. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and re-secure the zippers. I want to make sure that the handle is outside of the harness, so I set it outside the harness and I fit it into this slot in between the zippers. And so now you can kind of see that when I'm installing this, the way this works. When you pull down on this, it starts the separation of these zippers and your parachute is able to come out. And what secures it is once I pull these bungees, just like a traditional parachute, when I pull this string and the bungee comes up, not only does it pull the neoprene flaps to really secure that parachute in there, but as I slip this paddle into the capture, I'm also going to take this sewn-in nylon rod on both sides and slip it through that bungee to secure the neoprene flaps and the parachute. As you pull the handle out, it also pulls the pins, the bungee's released, and the parachute can come out and be only connected to the harness via the bridle, which is the safe way. So I'm going to go ahead and start zipping these zippers up, and we'll finish securing the parachute, and that'll basically conclude the installation.